Welcome, everybody. This is Maddie Cheers, broadcasting from Strong Island Radio. You can find us on Facebook Live if you'd like to listen, and feel free to make comments, call in during the show. Also, please share the show with your friends. We will be on every Sunday from 4 to 5. The show is called The Women's Oneness Project and Radical Democracy. So the goal of this show is actually, and the Women's Oneness Project, to bring people together, to get everybody's voice to be heard. When I say radical democracy, I'm basing it on something called the Great Law of Peace. I'm not talking about something new here. I'm talking about something over 1,000 years old, the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace, which is the foundation for our democracy. I've been studying this for many years, and I love the principle that in order to have a democracy, everyone's voice must be heard. All the laws have to be fair for everyone, and men and women have to be equal. If you're not going to accept those things, you are not going to have peace. You have got to listen to each other. That's where I feel things are falling apart, is we're not listening. We're not listening respectfully. When we created the Women's Oneness Project, the mission of the project was to do what we do in women's circles. It was to create a safe space where everyone's voice is heard, a space of understanding, respect, forgiveness, reconciliation, a space to inspire, not require people to feel a certain way to join, not to comment, but to converse, not to convert. So that we can find common ground. That's the goal. The goal is to find common ground. I always like what I say about my mom and my dad. My dad taught me to stand my ground. He definitely did. But my mom taught me that everyone is standing on their own ground. And when we forget that, that ground swallows us up. And so I want to hear the ground you're standing on, but I also want to listen. That's what we talk about. We talk about empowering people to listen and be heard. When you're sitting in a circle and you're using the talking stick, it's so that everybody has their time. You can hold that stick as long as you want to, but I do it with kids, I do it with adults, and what I always tell the kids, hopefully I don't have to tell the adults as much, but what I always tell the kids is be patient, wait your turn, and listen. Listen to what the next person has to say because they listen to you. And don't interrupt, and don't make fun of. If you're going to disagree with somebody, it shouldn't be in a mean way. Why does it always have to be the name calling? I'm telling you, I sit in these circles with kids, and the kids are more respectful than most of the adults I hear. Because I'm hearing a lot of name calling, a lot of degrading, a lot of demeaning of women. When I first thought to start the group, to start this search for common ground, to sit and have not just the spiritual women's circles that we do, but also to have talking circles where we could bring people together, I was inspired by the Women's March. Probably not what you're thinking of as being inspired as you hear me say that. There was an incident that happened where there was a group of young women called the New Wave Feminists who were supposed to sponsor the Women's March. And unfortunately, they were asked not to because there was a great hue and cry over them because it was found out that they were pro-life, so to speak. And I thought, well, that can't be. This is a women's march. It's supposed to include all women, right? So what does it matter? So why would you not want them to sponsor the march? So I went to their page and I looked at their page. I thought maybe they're super radical. Maybe they're talking about it's like the old days where, telling people they're going to go to hell and all of that stuff. And it is nothing like that. They are young women. They are wild looking, as they put on their page, badass young women who are not interested at all in making abortion illegal. They are interested, as they say, in making it unnecessary. And they are interested in helping women get to a point where they don't feel like they have to have sex in order to be a woman. They want to open things up so that this discussion can take place between everybody, all of us women, about what it means to be a woman. What are our fears? How do we bring people together who have been through that experience, who have decided on adoption, decided on abortion? Bring everybody together to tell their story. That is what the Women's Oneness Project is about, is to hear your story. And that's what happens when you look at the Great Law of Peace. What happens is your leaders are required to listen to you. They are required to put you before them. I think we need a whole change in leadership. When I'm talking about radical democracy, I'm talking about some pretty radical stuff that is not going to happen in my lifetime. But I think we need to think about it. I think especially now, we need to start thinking about choosing our leaders based on character. For the Haudenosaunee, they choose their leaders based on watching the boys and girls grow up. They're looking for people who are peaceful, kind, respectful, responsible, honest, unselfish, humble, open-minded. They never campaign. They don't ask to be leaders. If you ask for power, they're not going to give it to you. They're smart enough to recognize the dangers in that. They also say you have to have a skin 7 layers thick. That means you're going to have to come together with people. You're going to have to make laws and make decisions that are compromises, where everyone's voice is heard. There's going to be some compromise you have to make in order to create a law. And if you're going to do that, somebody's not going to get their way. And we the people, have a radical responsibility to accept that. If we're going to move things forward, we have to accept the fact that we are going to not get everything we want. It's not going to work out that way. Personally, I think a lot of the women's issues can come out of the political arena. I was very disappointed when I heard the head of the DNC, after all of this, come out and say, well, you can't be a Democrat unless you're pro-choice. And haven't we already been hearing enough from the other side about, oh, you can't be a Republican unless you're pro-life? You know what? How about we forget both of you parties and we start our own party? How about we start the pro-woman party? How about we start the pro-people party, the pro-peace party? How about we start a party where we're willing to sit there and listen to each other and speak to each other in an honest, civil way, instead of yelling and screaming at each other? Very disappointed again when these town hall meetings were being held about the healthcare issue. And I saw this one woman stand up. She was about to tell her story of how the current healthcare is hurting her, how she's suffering. She gets like 2 sentences out, and all these young kids in the back of the room start screaming and yelling. They're ranting and raving. They're not letting her speak. They are silencing her. You don't know what she was going to say. You don't know if when she finished telling you how Obamacare was affecting her, at the end of that sentence, she might have said, and that's why, Mr. Congressman, I think that we should have full coverage universal health care just like you do. But you didn't listen, so you don't know what the end of her statement was going to be. And that's the point of all of this. It's like I got asked to join a group it was a women's wisdom group. Again, another group named Women. Sorry, had to take a drink of water. So I get asked to join this group, and I look up on their Facebook page, and I look on their website, and it's like, not bad. A lot of Buddhism types of philosophy in there. I can get behind that. I'm not a Buddhist, but I know a lot about it. I like a lot about it. So I go, and they asked me if I would just say a little bit about what I wanted to do. So I did. I just said a few words about this idea that we need to find common ground, and that I really believe that among women there's a lot more common ground than the news or politicians would have us believe. So they go, okay, great. I said, well, not great. I'm not joining yet. I would like to talk to somebody. This is not like that Groucho Marx club where it's a line about how I won't join any club that would have me as a member. I'm happy you want me as a member. I just want to find out who you are before I join. So they did. They were very enthusiastic. They called me back. Oh, we're so happy to have you. One of our members recommended you, and we know you do women's circles. And then they asked me, well, so if you were going to do a workshop at one of our conferences, what would you do? And I said, well, I would do something on finding common ground. I would like to bring women from all over, all different philosophies, all different religions, all both sides of the aisle. I would like to bring in the Green Party, the Libertarians, everybody. I want everybody in, and let's talk. Crickets. No response. I'm like, I thought maybe the phone went dead, and she finally did respond, and she said, well, but we have a lot of activists in our group. And I said, well, I know a lot of activists. I'm an activist. I've been an activist all my life. And she said, well, I don't know. Let me just take this back to the membership committee and see what they say. So needless to say, even though I did write the next day, and I thought, okay, well, this is good. I can join you guys. They didn't ask me to join. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks later, I got an email that said, no, we're sorry. The membership committee has decided not to accept any new members anymore, which would be the same membership committee that had invited me to join. And I thought, okay, so did we miss that part in Buddhism where we're supposed to be seeking the middle road, where we're supposed to be looking at kindness and compassion as a way to deal with each other? But that's okay. So now I don't want to be a part of your group, but I want you to be a part of my group. I don't need to agree with you. I'm old. I'm 65. I have protested, marched up and down, done all kinds of things. I have all kinds of friends, know all kinds of people, and I want you to tell me what you want, but I also want you to listen. I want you to know that you're going to be heard, but I also want you to listen respectfully to what other people have to say. I think that's where we're falling apart. You know, it used to be that you could totally disagree. And fortunately, with my friends, I have plenty of friends that were not on the same political page. We can disagree with each other, but it doesn't mean that we're not friends anymore. It means that we disagree, but it also means that we can look at solutions. I sat on the phone once for a half an hour with my sister, and she is far more conservative than I am, but we were talking about the immigration problem. And in a half an hour, honest to goodness, we came up with a solution that I think was fair for everybody, that was compassionate and kind, and that looked at all the aspects of what could happen if we could just pass a law. And it even when we wrote it up, it wasn't that long. It was like a page. And we sent it to everybody, all of our representatives, all of everybody that we knew in government that was representing us, and we heard nothing. We got the standard response. Oh, we're sorry. Yes, thank you for telling us your opinion, and we'll get back to you at some later date, whenever that is. So I thought that's one of the biggest problems. When you look at the Great Law of Peace, these people that are sent off, these representatives that are sent to make laws for the people, these representatives come back home. They come home and they sit and they talk to their people. And if they don't talk to their people, if they don't listen to what their people have to say, then they can get kicked out. 3 strikes, you're out. That's it. If you're going to disrespect your own people, if you're not going to keep your promise to represent them and to let their voice be heard, then you're out. And personally, if I were going to start a third party, I would start it based on campaign finance reform. We have way too much influence from money in the government. Way too much. I would like to see that be the issue that we're talking about next. Let's get that big money out of the government. It's going to require a constitutional amendment. It's going to take some time. But when we're using the good mind, as the Haudenosaunee say, not the quick mind, the mind that's grateful, respectful, the mind that is loving, when we're using that mind, we're patient. We can wait. We can make a constitutional amendment that says, no, sorry, corporations and businesses, special interest groups, PACs, none of you get to contribute. Personally, I would do it so that nobody contributes money. I'd make radio stations and television stations have to air debates for free. I'd let everybody into the debates. What's this business where we can only have the 2 major parties? There's no law that says that. We can look at France. Let's look at what France did. France got their 2 major parties out of power. when they got Macron elected, they did it because they have a system where they have a debate with everybody who's running, and then they have a vote, and the people that got the two people that got the most votes, they have a runoff. Why can't we do that? Why can't we rethink the way we're looking at this democracy? And it's the same thing. I feel the same way about the Haudenosaunee have 14 presidents. Benjamin Franklin wanted 3. Why do we only need 1? And the reasoning back then was, well, people won't be able to accept democracy. They're used to having a king or a queen, so we got to make it familiar to them. And maybe we did back then in 1776, but we don't now. We can change it. We can make constitutional amendments and change things so the voice of the people can be heard. And we need to get rid of this elitism. I had somebody say to me once that the problem with democracy is that anybody gets to vote, the uneducated, the uninformed. Really? Well, what are you talking about? People that don't have college degrees, they do get to vote. A lot of people don't have college degrees, don't want to go to college. And those people, doesn't mean they're uninformed. It does mean that they do know right from wrong. They know their own mind. Yes, you are going to get a lot of people who maybe are undereducated. Something else we could deal with if we had a government that was listening to us. Something else we could deal with. We could take public education and make it so that it's not funded by property tax. Because of course then it's going to be unequal. We can make it so that education is something that's not the same for everybody, not this core curriculum. Make it so that it aligns with what we know in science about human development and how the brain functions. We can do all of that. We have so much possibility when you have a democracy, when you have free speech, when you have respect. And really stop calling yourself a women's group unless you really, really are going to include all women. Otherwise, be honest. Call yourself what you are. You're women who are making a group of people who agree with us. So we can do that. You could at least be honest about it. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in hearing from everybody. I'm interested in including all women and hopefully all men. I want to hear from men. Certain issues I don't think men you can address, which is one of the reasons why I think the pro-life, pro-choice issue needs to be off the political table. But that's just me. Feel free to call me up and argue with me about that. Feel free to call me up anytime from 4 to 5 on Strong Island Radio. Sorry. Getting used to the mic here. That was another water thing. If you want to shout out some people who are listening to you and watching you. Oh, okay. Thank you, Linda Chambers. Sorry, I am old, and so I am really bad at technology. That was another thing I was thinking about. Miss Linda Chambers, my buddy, thank you for listening. And boom, yes, Celia Kobitz-Kibler, my sister, thank you so much. So I just want to say one more thing about putting together maybe a third party. I really am a big proponent of that. I always have been. We could have a fourth party, fifth party. The Haudenosaunee have 9 parties. Why not? Why shouldn't we have more parties? So I just, thank you for these comments about all women should be included. And yes, you can debate. You want to debate? Debate. Absolutely. One debate. Oh, that's what you're saying. Thank you, Linda. Yes, one debate. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is it that we have some 3 little debates? I'm telling you, if we took money out, we'd have all those horrible ads off. They'd be off. That's it. We're going to make you TV stations. You're going to have to carry the debates, and we're going to have 10 debates. We'll decide how many debates we need, right? Let's have 10. Let's talk about 10 different topics. Let's hear from each of the candidates. I know in New York, when I go to vote for president, there are easily at the bottom 5 more parties putting up candidates that we could vote for. Fantastic. Get them all out there. And make it sort of like, I think it's England that does this, where you can't even campaign till 3 months before then. We've got 2 years. We've got congressmen in there for 2 years, and they spend a year running for office so they can stay in office for the next 2 years. So another thing we could talk about is term limits, congressional term limits. There's a concept. So let's see. I just yes, free debates. Oh, good. Yay. Lots of the people agree with this. That they think that in France, somebody's pointing out that in France, Macron wouldn't have gotten elected if they didn't have inclusive debates. Absolutely. Everybody needs to be included. I'm not interested in excluding everybody. People have brilliance. I sit with 9-year-olds on a daily basis that are brilliant. They hear things and say things that blow you away. They have an insight into, especially when you get to the part where you're talking to them about how they came to peace after a long period of war. And we talk about how if you're going to come to peace, you have to forgive. You're going to have to forgive the past. You can't hold on to it. And they're all about it. They'll have long discussions on it. If I ask them to make a law where, we're going to solve bullying without using any violence, they can be unbelievably insightful. We have to be an example for them. We can't expect them. Every school I walk into has an anti-bullying program. We can't expect them not to be bullies if we're acting like bullies, and that's how we're acting. Oh my gosh. Listen to these late night hosts talk about women they disagree with, women on the other side. They're horrible. If they were Haudenosaunee, they'd be kicked out. It is illegal to treat a woman with violence, a woman or a child with violence, with your words or with your deeds. So most of these late night people, and the two in particular I'm talking about, would be kicked out naked out there in the woods with a big mark cut in their face so that everybody would know they were a criminal and not take them in. And we have to get to that level where we're not, if you're going to stand there and say that every woman's voice needs to be heard, then you can't allow men to make fun of women they disagree with. That's terrible. I go with that American Indian idea that if you kill someone's spirit, you might as well have killed their body because you changed them. And that's not your job. It's not your job to change them. That's not in our realm. That's the Creator. And if you don't believe in the Creator, it's still not your job. It's not your job to change somebody. It's not your job to hurt them. And I loved Linda, speaking of my friend Linda, what she said once, we need to do away with mean girls. We women, we have to take responsibility. I know plenty of women. I always sit with the kids and tell them, when you're talking about stopping bullying, don't just say he. Because boys might put you around, but girls can kill you with their words. And you know that. We have to stop it. It just has to end. We need to go in a different direction. We need to go into the direction of love. Love listens. Love listens down to the fear. And that's what we're talking about. When people are angry, when they're afraid to let someone else speak, they're not being loved. Something somewhere they're not feeling safe. So let love listen to that person that's afraid. Because I guarantee you, Wednesday morning, there are going to be a lot of people, regardless of how that vote goes, there are going to be a lot of people in our country that are sad and scared. And we should have compassion to them, with them. Whether we agreed with them or not, we should be compassionate. We should be loving. We should be like the two women I saw on a TED Talk who were best friends. One voted for Trump and one voted for Hillary. And the one who voted for Trump called up her friend and said, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. I really am. I know you're really hurt today. Why don't we start there? Why don't we start with compassion? Why don't we start with that middle road like Buddha recommends? Why don't we look for that? So that's basically where I am. That is basically where I am. I think the Haudenosaunee idea of requiring adults to be a perfect example of peace is the way we have to go. We have to set the example. I love that on Long Island there was a woman she was asked by her community to please run for office, please. And she said, "Well, I can't run for office because I got 2 kids I got to take care of." So what did her community to do? They offered to babysit for her. They gave her money. That's it. That's the third party. That's the pro people party. If you can't, I don't even want. I mean, I'm going to stand by my word. I don't think there should be money involved in elections. But if you find somebody that you think is peaceful, kind, respectful, responsible, puts others before themselves, then give them your services. If you're a young person, go do their website, get them involved on social media. If you know how to do that and you want an older person elected who, like me, who doesn't know how to do that, then help them out. Volunteer your time. Babysit for their kids. Cook them dinner if they have to return phone calls. Walk door to door and talk to people about your candidate who probably lives in your neighborhood, who you want to see, and here's why. Here's what she did for this person. Here's what he did for that person. That's where I think we can get to. Do I know if we can get there in my lifetime? It doesn't matter, because I'm looking at the next 7 generations. I'm following that Haudenosaunee guideline. Whenever we make a decision today, we have to consider how it will affect the next 7 generations, and the 7 after that, and the 7 after that. And if we do not decide soon to listen to each other and treat each other with respect, then I don't know where we go from there. So that's what the Women's Oneness Project is all about. That's what Radical Democracy is all about. We will be back next Sunday, but I'm going to stay on for a little while, see if anybody wants to call in and ask a question. And if not, I hope you share this with your friends, with your community, with your family. That is what this is all about. So that's it. And I leave you with the words of the peacemaker. If you want to have peace, if you want to have peace, you have to make a decision. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be fair? Because everybody wants to be right? So you answer that question. I'll give you a hint. The kids always get it right. So thank you for listening. Again, the phone number here is 516-945-9099 if you want to call in. And if not, I hope you check it out on Facebook, on Strong Island Radio. It will also be on TuneIn Radio, the TuneIn app, if you'd like to check that out or share it with your friends. And we'll be back next Sunday from 4 to 5. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.